Should you have an agent? Today we're going to talk about agents. Would you like to talk about agents? Let's do it. Let's talk about agents.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julie Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julie Amante. I'm a women's fiction author and here to give you writing tips on Fridays. So today we're going to talk about agents and what, do you need them or do you not need them? And if if you're in a novel or a movie script or, anything that needs to be published, then you've probably thought about it, right? Should I have an agent? Do I need an agent? How can an agent help me? And so I thought we would talk about that today, and I would give you some of the ways that agents can help you and why you might need one, or why you might decide that you can do this on your own and avoid the whole relationship with an agent. So first, let's talk about why you might want an agent, why you might need an agent. So the very first thing that an agent does for you is they look at your work, right? So they look at your manuscript, and if they accept you and they decide to work with you, they help you get your manuscript into the best version that it can be so that it can be sold to a publisher. The second reason that an agent is nice to have is because it's somebody else that is just as enthusiastic and excited about your story as you are. So as you work together with your agent and you send your manuscript and you get changes or you get feedback from your agent, then you have somebody to bounce ideas back and forth with, and it's nice to have that partner to do this. You're not feeling like you're so alone, like you're not quite sure if something is working or not working. So your agent is there to help you get it into that great shape, and then also as you're working to give you some tips and to talk you through maybe some of your plot points or things that you might have questions about. And lastly, your agent is the person who has the contacts, right? They are the ones that have contacts with editors or with publishing people in the publishing industry, so that they can make the connections and they can hopefully at the end, when you have your final draft finished, sell your book, sell your script. So that is really an important part, because we as writers may not have that. We probably don't. We don't have those everyday connections with editors or publishing houses. So it's a lot harder for us to be able to contact them, where an agent already has these relationships with certain houses, with certain editors, and it'd be a lot easier for them to contact and try to sell your work. Okay, so it sounds great, right? But not everything is wonderful. It's a difficult relationship. It's a business relationship that you're having with someone else, but it's also a friendly business relationship. So your agent should be somebody that you can talk to, that you feel comfortable with. And it's hard. First of all, it's hard to get an agent, and then it's hard to keep an agent. So I've had 5 agents, so it seems like a lot, right? Like, what in the world? Why so many agents? Well, the first one was before I really knew what I was doing, and so I went to a conference. I met an agent. I talked about my story, and he was excited, and he said, yeah, send me some information. And he decided that he wanted to represent me, and I thought, great. What was the problem there? Well, he was centered here in LA, and he was actually more of an entertainment lawyer than he was an agent. So not terrible, but I wasn't there yet. Like, I wasn't ready to sell a book to Hollywood, and I didn't really need an entertainment lawyer. I really needed an agent to help me I'd already sold some books, by the way, but I needed to move to the next level. So the first few contracts that I had, I actually got on my own without an agent. So he was my first agent there, and I think maybe that's why he was willing to take a chance, because I'd already published on my own. I'd already published, and I'd already sold on my own, and so he thought, well, she'll be ready to move on to the next step. But again, it just wasn't a good fit. He was here in LA, and I didn't feel like he had the connections for New York. So my next agent after that, again, was really good, sold my next contract, and but decided to leave actually that agency, start her own agency. And so, things got complicated there. The last, then there were a couple of other agents, and then I had my last agent who, again, I really liked a lot. I thought we had a really good connection. And then she ended up leaving her agency for personal reasons. And so I was left agentless again. And I thought, you know what? I'm kind of done with this whole thing. I'm done with the agents. So, not that I won't work with an agent again or that I wouldn't work with an agent again. I would, because again, the reasons that I mentioned when I started, that I think they can be very helpful. But for right now, or at that point, I decided, you know what, I just don't, I just need to see what I can do on my own. So, so that was that. So it can be a complicated relationship. It doesn't mean that because you get an agent that you're going to always have that agent. It doesn't mean that, again, the agent won't leave or something won't happen and you'll have to start all over again. So it is complicated, and it isn't easy to get an agent to want to work with you or to continue to work with you once you do get them. So really it depends on you. Should you get an agent or should you not get an agent? Well, it depends on your goals, right? So if you have the dream of signing with a major publisher, you're not going to be able to get your book even looked at by an editor unless you have an agent. So things have changed quite a bit from the time when I started. There were a lot more publishers back then. And I'm not going to say it was easier, but there was just more out there. And so there were more possibilities than there are today. So if you are thinking of publishing with not a major publisher, but a good reputable kind of medium-sized publisher, you might be able to not have an agent, or even a smaller press. You can most likely not even need an agent. Or if you're going to self-publish, so if you're publishing on your own and you're thinking, I'm going to do it all on my own, and I want to do all of it. I want to write it. I want to find my own editors. I want to find my own cover designers. I want to, publish it on my own, and have this whole business. Then it's a lot of work, but you don't need an agent, obviously, because you are nobody's representing you. You are your own publisher. So in that case, of course, you wouldn't need an agent. But if you decide that you do want to, like you do want to try to sell to one of the big houses, then what are some of the things that you should do, or what you should look at so let's just say you're going to try to find an agent. What should you do and what should you not do? So let's talk first about what not to do. You do not want to ever have to pay an agent. So an agent gets paid from the sales, right? So the agent sells your story. The agent typically gets 15% of that sale, could be 20%, but you don't ever have to pay an agent. So anybody who ever asks you for money, then run away, because they are not a legitimate agent. They will not ask you for money. They get paid after they sell your book from your royalties. Don't call or harass agents. So if you are interested in an agent, go to their website, follow their submission guidelines. They will tell you exactly how to contact them, how they want you to contact them. Don't go find them on Facebook. Don't go do any of that stuff, because that's not the way that they want new clients, right, to contact them. So follow the submission guidelines, do what it is that they tell you to do. If they're telling you to send a query, if they're telling you to send the whole manuscript, they might, there's exceptions sometimes. So if you go to a conference and you meet them and they say, hey, they probably won't do this, but if they do, say, give me a call when you're done, or send me a letter, then fine. That's usually what they will do. They typically will not tell you to call them. But if they tell you to do something different, it's okay. Otherwise, follow the rules that they have set, because that's the way that they want to work with their clients. That's the way they want to be contacted by new people. Okay, something else not to do is not to send the same query letter to multiple agents. So basically, you don't want a form letter. You want your query letter specific to that agent or agency. You should have a good reason for wanting that agent. So you should maybe know what they definitely know what they represent, maybe know who they represent, what they're interested in. So you don't want to send like an agent something, a romantic suspense if they don't represent that at all, right? You're just wasting your time and you're wasting their time. So do your homework and create a query letter that is very specific and that explains, why you want them to represent you, what it is that you think they can do for you, what you can provide, right? What is your specialty? What are you good at? And why they would want to work with you. Okay, something else not to do is not to give them deadlines. So you can't say like, well, I'm going to give you until Valentine's Day, and then after that, I'm going to try to find another agent. So, you don't do that. You can definitely send queries to more than one agent, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you don't want to give them a deadline. They tell you when they're going to be ready, and usually they'll say it on their website somewhere. So they'll say, usually it takes me 6 weeks to return to contact you, or however long, right? It could take 8 weeks. It could take whatever time they think they need. Because you're not a priority to them yet, right? They have their own client list. That's their priority. So they're not really interested in your deadlines. They will get to reading your work when they have time, because it's what they do on their downtime, honestly. So they're working all the time. They're working for their clients first, and then when they have time, they will read your query letters or your manuscripts or whatever you sent them, and see if they would like to represent you. So they're not representing you yet. You really can't give them a deadline. Okay, something else not to expect, I guess, is that they're going to give you some kind of like extensive critique or something of your manuscript. If you're not their client yet, if they're just evaluating it, they might give you some feedback, but most likely they won't. They'll just read it and say, yes, this is for me. No, it's not for me. And they'll send you a letter telling you why or why not. Or sometimes they will send a form letter saying, we're just not interested. So, unfortunately, you're not going to get a lot of feedback from agents. They're just going to accept you or reject you. So, and sometimes they will contact you and ask you a little bit more questions to see if you're a right fit for them. But you can't expect that they're going to be editing your work when you're not their client yet. And something else that I personally do not do is I don't accept that once I do sign with the agent, that the royalties go directly to the agent, and that the agent gives me my royalties. So I have it split by the publisher. The publisher sends the agent their 15%, and then they send me the rest. So it doesn't go to the agent. That's personally just something that I do, that I've done from the beginning, because it just makes the bookkeeping very clean. I don't have to, it doesn't, and it comes straight to me rather than having to go to an agent and then waiting for the agent to issue a check and pay me. I figure, why do that? Again, this is something just that I do. I recommend that you do that because it's a lot cleaner than having it go through this middleman. There's no need for that. And the publisher usually has no problem with just splitting it and giving them their 15% and then sending the rest to the author. Okay, so now let's talk about what you should do. Well, I mentioned one of the things that you should do. You should definitely do your research. You should find an agent that is going to be perfect for you. So there's a lot of agents out there. You don't want to do just anybody. So my mistake, right, with my first agent, like I mentioned, was that I just met him at a conference and I thought, well, sure, an agent is an agent, right? And I didn't do my homework. I didn't know exactly what he represented. I didn't know that he was mostly focused on like Hollywood and scripts. And so he wasn't the best agent for me. Could have been perfect for other people, but just not for me. So do your research, find out what it is that agent represents, and then what style do they like? Not only the genre, but there's different styles even within a genre, and what is it that they tend to like? Because the more you can target somebody who actually is going to like your work, the more likelihood that they're going to want to represent you. So do a little homework. Find out who their clients are, read their books, see if they're maybe similar to yours. In a way, you don't want it exact because they don't want an exact person that they already have. But in general, what is it that they like, and try to target those agents that are most likely going to like your work. Okay, the second thing that you want to do while you're doing this research is definitely find reputable agents. So look for people that have been in business for a while. That doesn't mean that somebody who just started out can't be amazing. Of course they can. Everybody starts somewhere, but you want to be careful, right? Because anybody can say I'm an agent and they can say I'm going to represent authors, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're doing. It doesn't mean that they're trustworthy, right? So you want to do your homework and make sure that you're only signing with somebody who is reputable, because once you sign a contract, you're kind of stuck with them for a while, right? Depending, sometimes it's a year, whatever the contract says. So make sure that they are reputable, that you can trust them, and that they're a real agent working for a real agency. So the next thing that you definitely want to do is target your letter. So within your letter, and if you don't know how to write a query letter, learn how to do this. Look, there's a lot of places where you can look on how to write a query letter. But you want it to be targeted to that agent, and you want it to explain well what your story is about, right? It doesn't have to be very long. Query letters are not super long, but you want to tell them who you are, what your strengths are, why you're the best person to write this story. So maybe you're writing, maybe your main character is a nurse and you happen to be a nurse. So you have a lot of background information that makes the book feel authentic. So, tell them a little bit about yourself. What is the premise? What is the story about? Why are you choosing that agent? And what do you think? How do you think the book is going to do based on what? So depends on what you're writing, right? If you're writing more nonfiction, then you want to tell them similar books that have sold to the one that you're writing. But if you're a fiction author, you don't really need to do that. You just want to focus on your story, your strengths, why you chose that agent. So think about agents. They're just human beings like everybody else, right? They want to know that you chose them because you thought that they were the best agent for you. So if you can make them feel that, that's a good thing. So target your letters, write a new letter for every agent. Now, another thing that you definitely can do is send more than one query to multiple agents. Again, it's a different query letter, but you can do it all at once. What I did back when I was looking for agents was I would schedule it. So I would say, okay, this is the top agent. This is the one I want. This letter is going out this week. Then next week, I'm sending it to this next person, maybe the second one on my list. Then week 3 to the third one on my list. And the reason I did it this way was just because it would give the first agent that extra week, right? That extra time, because that's who I really wanted to sign with. And then if I didn't hear back, whoever I heard back from first, if they were good, and I obviously I looked into it, so I wanted them, then I probably would just sign with them. But it gives it a little bit, but you can have multiple submissions out there. You don't have to wait until you get a response back, especially since it could take 6-8 weeks to get back to you, and you don't want to have to wait all that time. So and then the other agents that do, if they do get back to you, you can say, well, I've already signed with another agent, but thank you very much, and move forward. Okay, and another thing that you do want to do, and you can do, is to check back with them. So you don't have to bother them, harass them, or send them weekly emails on where they're at. But if they say they're going to take 8 weeks and you haven't heard back within 8 weeks, you can politely send an email saying that you're just checking on the status of your manuscript and if they've gotten to it. It could be that, multiple reasons. They got stuck at the bottom of a pile, they haven't. You could tell them it's been 8 weeks, and maybe they will go and get it and read it and give you their answer. So it's okay to check back with them, again, not a week after you sent it, but after some time. It's all right, and most agents really don't mind, and if they do, then maybe you wouldn't want them anyways, because if they're taking 12 weeks or to get back to you, then maybe they're just a little too busy. So the thing to remember is that this agent is going to be your partner in this writing publishing game. And you want somebody that is going to be a good partner. So somebody that you're going to really like and enjoy working with, and that somebody that's going to help you move your career forward. I have a lot of friends that absolutely adore their agents, and that's exactly the feeling that you want. You want to feel that that, wow, this, I couldn't have sold my novel without this agent, or it wouldn't be as good of a novel if I didn't have this specific agent. That's the feeling you want to have, and that's the partnership that you want with your agent. And if you get that, it's a great feeling. So think about it. If you feel like that you do want to have an agent, then look for that perfect agent. Look for the one that's perfect for you, even if it takes you a little time to find the person. Once you find the person, you'll be happy. Will it be a forever relationship? In my experience, no, but lots of writers have had that experience and have had a successful relationship with an agent that actually stayed in agency and within the agency for many years. So, my experiences was maybe different than other people's, and not, it could be very uncommon. I just shared, how it was for me. Again, not that I won't consider at some point getting another agent. If I decide to publish again with major publishers, I might look for an agent again. Right now, I'm solo and I'm happy with what I'm doing, trying to do it on my own and seeing what happens. So I hope this has been helpful, and that it gives you some good pointers or some good advice. If it helps, then please hit the like button, hit the share button, and come back next week to see me again. And I will try to have another amazing video for you. See you then.